Today, we're diving into the world of luxury real estate, high profile clients, and entrepreneurial success with none other than Kelly Robinson. Kelly is a powerhouse in the real estate industry, having built a top ranked team in New York City since 2005 and recently expanded her reach to Miami. Her expertise in property rebranding, renovation consulting, and maximizing value in the condominium market has placed her among the top 5% of real estate professionals worldwide. But Kelly's story is about so much more than just real estate. She's a multifaceted entrepreneur who's also launching a pet product e-commerce startup, co-founded a scholarship fund, and hosts her own podcast as well. Today, we're peeling back the layers to uncover the secrets behind her success, the struggles she faced along the way, and the strategies that keep her at the top of her game. So get ready to learn, be inspired, and maybe even take a few notes as we dive deep with Kelly Robinson on today's episode of Life Without Secrets. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be here with you. And I'm also just so excited to pick your brain, get to know you a little bit deeper as well, and just find out like your journey and how you've been able to be a senior real estate broker in New York City since 2005. And you've expanded. Like, tell me about getting into this career and what has been some secrets to your long-term success in such a competitive market like New York.
So I got into this business accidentally.
Okay.
I was an actress my whole life since I was a little kid, went to conservatory program for college, acted in London at the Globe, did a bunch of stuff, and then had a falling out with my manager in 2004 because I just didn't want to be on a soap, and I booked a soap, and I just didn't want to be babe on All My Children. I just didn't want to be, I was more into things that I personally felt had more depth. So my manager and I decided to part ways, and I signed a post-dated contract with another manager for a year out. And I was like, I'm just going to take a break. I've been doing this my whole life. I just want to see if there's something out there for me. Like, I'm not planning on leaving the industry, but I just want to see. And so I went to NYU post-grad classes and, did some, PR, and, some other things. And I had a friend who said, you should get your real estate license because you won't have to work at a bar and like you can make some money and I was like, all right. Don't think I'd be interested, but I'll get it and we'll just see. And I went and I got it and I started working as a rental agent at the biggest rental agency in the city. And let me tell you, I did terribly my first year. It was so cutthroat. I think I made like $10,000 my first year. Like my parents were helping me, like God bless them. I was running around. I had sweat stains. I was like hustling, but I was never willing to be the person that was like, meet me on the corner. I'm not actually going to show you what you called on. I'm going to show you like this rat infested other thing. Like, right. I couldn't be like that. I wasn't that type of an animal. And I really wanted to get into sales. So the next year, in conjunction with my mom, who always loves a project, we found a top broker who was looking for team members and specifically an executive assistant at a bigger firm. And I went and I worked for her. And let me tell you that I worked for her for 4 years. I was her executive assistant for about 6 months. And then I became an agent on her team. I would not wish her on anybody, and I'm not going to name names, but I would not take that experience back for the world because I learned so much. I did everything in such a short period of time that I learned the whole industry, and it really it helped me to build relationships. She didn't want to do open houses. She didn't want to work with buyers. And so everybody that I met, I just built relationships with. And I'm an empath, which can be good and bad. You really have to learn your boundaries when you're an empath. But I just cared so much about the people I was working with that I just forged relationships with them. And I'm still in contact with most of them to this day.
Yeah, that is really an awesome story. And I think, like, when we stick with something and we worked hard in the beginning, right? It's like, I feel like that hard work in the beginning gets you through a lot over time too. Like, you build your confidence, and you can do the hard things even when times are tough, or even when it feels like a struggle. And being that you've been in now since like 2005, I know that you have also been a part of some market ups and some really market lows, and in a city where, like, this is a global financial hub, the real estate market in New York, and it's really tied, or we look to New York for a broader economy type of sense, and shift in economic factors and all that other stuff. So I kind of want to know, like, I'm also an ER nurse, so I know what that was like during COVID and all that, and like
Yeah.
stress levels in health, in wealth, in every area of life. So I want to touch, like, what was it like for you? And we can go back to the crash in, like, what, 2007 was it? Or we can go to COVID, and like, how did you manage during those difficult times? What was it like for you?
Well, first of all, my first year in real estate was a difficult time.
Mm.
I did terribly, and I still got so much joy running around working with people and looking at properties. I love architecture to the point where I actually, when I was a little kid, I used to look through the paper and circle homes that I wanted to live in. And my parents would be like, and I would ask them to go to open houses. And they were like, we lived in a small town. So it was like, here come the Robinsons again. They're just looky-loos. But I was redesigning my bedroom all the time. My mom was like, who are you? Like, we don't have the money to do this. So I really enjoyed property. And so I'm not a quitter. And I was like,
Mhm.
I will make this work. So that was a really tough year. And then the crash in 2008, all of my buyers, I was a buyer's agent at the time, were in contract in new developments, and they all got out of their contracts. So
Mm.
I was like, I had nothing coming in. I remember looking through my pockets one day, scrounging for change so that I could go down to the bodega and get
Mhm.
something to eat. Um, and that was like a real low. But you take those hard times and you hone your skills and you become creative, and it puts hair on the chest and it makes you stronger, and
Mhm.
it makes you better for when the market turns. And then I did phenomenally when the market turned around. And then, COVID hit, we couldn't show homes. And so that's when I decided, okay, I have this idea for this startup. I might as well, instead of feeling bad for myself, do something about it. So I formed this startup, which has taken a lot longer than it was supposed to launch. Um, but you know what? Like, it's all been such a great learning experience, and I've grown so much from it. And I just tell people, don't give up. Unless
Mhm.
you're miserable, don't give
Mhm.
up,
Yeah.
because you will make it. It will get better. And all of your failures and your mountains and your roadblocks will teach you something that will make you so much better in the long run.
Yeah, I love that. So you go through this hard time during COVID. People are like dropping out. You can't even show houses. What are you currently seeing in the real estate market in New York?
So New York is still kind of depressed compared to the rest of the country. There's still a
Okay.
lot of people leaving.
Okay.
Um, and we still have an inventory problem. Although there are things sitting on the market, there's not a lot of good inventory.
Mhm.
Most things need renovations, and the cost to renovate has tripled since COVID, since
Yeah.
before COVID. And it's not even the materials, like commodities have come down, but the cost of labor has gone up.
Mhm.
And you've got inflation and everything else. And a lot of people don't want the headache of renovating a property in New York. It is a true roller coaster ride. And,
Mm.
there are things moving, but I have actually had situations 3 times in the past year where um, I've had sellers who've had properties on the market and they're getting offers and they had to pull their property off the market because they were leaving the city and they couldn't find anything to buy where they
Mm,
wanted to live.
yeah.
And so they had to re-enroll their kids in school and plan for the next year and everything else. So it was more about, yeah, they had the buyers. They just didn't have a place to go because you go to Greenwich or you go to, the suburbs outside of New York City, and it's like places are on the market for a day and they're
Hmm.
going, well over the asking price.
Yeah. Yeah, and we see that, I'm over by San Francisco
Yeah.
and same thing happens here actually. So it's interesting that you say that because I think like the bigger cities will reflect kind of like what's happening in other bigger cities, especially in New York because that's just like the hub, right? But your expertise also includes some like property rebranding, renovation consulting, and maximizing value in the condominium market and all of that, which I think is really unique for what you do as a real estate agent and probably in particular really useful to have those skills. And it sounds like something that was really passionate in you from when you were a little girl, being that you were like always looking at the details and the architecture. So can you share like some strategies that you believe are game changers in, you know, changing a property's value or transforming a property's value, and also like relating that to, how other people can find those gifts? Like did you know you were going to do that, or is that something that you stumbled upon and you were like, oh my gosh, like I used to do this when I was a little girl? Like how did you relate that?
I just I started having all of these ideas and I was almost afraid at first to offend anybody and be like, this needs to change and that needs to change. And if we just did this,
Mm-hmm.
it would, make your space so much more valuable. I started helping sellers who, if the numbers worked, right, the
Mm-hmm.
numbers have to work, were willing to renovate their homes in order to sell.
Mm.
And every single time we got above the asking price and they made a lot of money. So fingers crossed, it has been successful thus far. And little things like in a post-war property, you might know that the doorways are really low and narrow, and the ceilings tend to be low, and it really kind of makes the space feel a little bit more claustrophobic than a loft or a newer building with high ceilings. So what I do is I open the doorways wider and I take them all the way up to the ceiling, the closets, the doorways, everything. And it makes it feel so much higher and more
Mm.
open and light and easy. And then in New York City, the kitchen is everything. So
Mm.
we'll go really durable, less expensive, but beautiful in other areas of the home. But the kitchen has to have the high end appliances. That's what sells the home in New York City.
Mm.
So I've always had an eye for design. Like when I was a little girl, I was always redesigning my bedroom. I would drag my mom into ABC Carpet and Home in New York City, which is like $1,000 for a tchotchke. And my mom was like, we can look, but like, we're not buying this. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
spending $600 on a duvet. But my mom was so talented that we would go home and she'd make it for me. So
Wow.
I was always redesigning things, and I still am now, which is kind of an expensive and stupid habit, but when you see so many properties and you see so many design ideas, you just want it all. And then with co-ops, co-ops are a beast, and they are losing value in New York City because of all of their rules. And the market favors condos. Condos can be 20 to 30% more expensive than co-ops because there's so much more flexibility.
And for
So
those
I
that
have
don't know, can you explain what a co-op is?
so a co-op is where you own shares in a corporation.
Okay.
You can get a loan like you would on a condo or a townhouse or a regular property. Like you can get a mortgage, but you don't get a deed. You get a stock and lease as a shareholder, and you own shares. And there are rules, right? They have
Mhm.
rules everywhere from how much of a down payment you can make, and they have rules on how much of a debt to income ratio you have to have in order to qualify for the building and how much post-closing liquidity you must have. And there are standard rules, and then there are every building is different. So you have to really know the buildings in New York City and what they kind of expect from a buyer. And then you have to have reference letters and all sorts of things. They want to see, all of your financials, every bank statement, every brokerage statement, your tax returns,
Wow.
you name it. They want your firstborn child, and sometimes the dogs get interviewed too.
Oh
You
my
have to have an
goodness.
interview. So I have, and a lot of these co-ops are 50% financing maximum, or even some of them are 100%. And so what I've been doing is I've been trying to advise co-op boards where the properties have really lost value because of all of these rules, on how to increase their value in a market that favors condominiums. Whether that is, okay, let's increase the down payment requirement so that you can now put 75% down. At least that's closer to what most banks are going to lend, right? People, even if they have tons and tons of money, they want to remain liquid. So things like that. And I think there was one other thing you asked me, and I'm forgetting right now.
Oh, we were just like the strategy, like what you did, the property rebranding, like renovation consulting you kind of talked about, and then just maximizing the value in the market, and like how it's a game changer in transforming a property's value. And you kind of touched on that too.
So rebranding is different from renovating.
Okay.
I'm a big proponent of staging, and it's there are people who have beautifully decorated homes. You just need to do a little move here or there, things, zhuzhing, whatever. But there are homes that don't sell because they're not properly marketed or branded. And you really want to understand who is your target market and what appeals to them. And so I do studies on the target market and what appeals to them. And then I do these incredible videos with this content crew that I have that are like Hollywood worthy. And we do videos that evoke an emotion and show the lifestyle. It's all about the lifestyle, right? Because you want to live the lifestyle you want.
That's so good. So what are some things that you're noticing right now? Is there something trending? I'm just curious.
It really depends. Like, it depends on the target market. Like, there are so many different trends for different target markets, right? Open concept was a big trend for a while, and it still is the way that a lot of people want to live in New York City, right? You're in a smaller space. You want people hang out in the kitchen. And that's part of the reason the kitchen is so important. But now, they're starting to build homes that have smaller kitchens or kitchens that are, closed off, because more and more people are saying they want that separation now. So there are certain trends, and then there are, of course, design trends. I'm always, when it comes to new development, I'm always a little bit hesitant of going ultra modern or trendy, because you really want something that's going to stand the test of time with regards to the aesthetic.
And you work with some high profile clients as well, correct? Yeah. So tell me about this. Like, what is it like working with some high profile type of clients? Is there anything you like? And is there any challenges with that?
Well, there are challenges with everybody that you work with, right? And I'm lucky enough to be at the point where if somebody is abusive or difficult, I can say, I'm sorry, it's not the right fit. But I am in the sports and entertainment division at Compass, which is a group of 130 agents nationwide. It's a very small group. We're vetted. You have to apply references, all of that. And you have to have done a certain number of deals with entertainers or pro athletes in order to be a part of this group. And basically, working with some of the people in those niche markets, you need to understand certain things like traffic patterns, for example. Like, if an athlete is late to practice, they get fined. So if they want to live in a neighborhood that's far away from the stadium or where they practice, you got to know, like, okay, at what time does practice start, and what's the traffic like? How long is it going to take you to get there? When do you need to leave? So that's just one example. You
Mhm.
also need to learn how to work with people's managers because that's usually the person you start working with.
Mm.
And it usually starts out as a high-end rental because people are, they're there for a season or they're there for a recording for 3 months or what have you. And then it can later turn into a sale.
Mm. That's so good. So interesting too. I want to know, is there any strategies, and people could apply this to like any business that they're in, any relationship, any strategies that you use to maintain kind of their trust and loyalty and build on those relationships? Because I would imagine that being really important for somebody, especially like high profile client. Um, how do you build that? Do you have any strategies that you use that could other people can relate to their own lives as well?
Well, one of the first things that I do with somebody who's high profile is I offer to sign an NDA, even if they don't ask me, because I want them to feel comfortable knowing that I am working for them. I am not trying to capitalize on their
Mm.
fame or what have you. This is a, doctor patient relationship. Everything is going to be private. I want to do what's in their best interest, and I don't care who they are as far as like me. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter to me if you are somebody or nobody, as long as
Yeah.
you're qualified.
Yep. Yep. So, going back to your story, is there any personal struggles that we haven't talked about that you faced on your journey, whether that be professionally or personally, that have kind of helped shape your life and what you do today?
I mean, we could do like 3 episodes on my personal struggles and business struggles. I think, I've had a lot of them, and especially learning to set boundaries as an empath, was something that was hard for me as far as, the way that people would treat me. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'm a human too. I am not your servant. I will serve you and I will give you the best service, but I'm not going to be treated like a peon. Um,
Mhm.
and that took a long time for me. And, I think, personally, for example, last summer, I found out just from a gut instinct, an ultrasound came back negative, and I found out from a gut instinct when I wanted this lump out of my body that was apparently benign that it was cancer.
Mm.
So I had to have a partial thyroidectomy. And luckily, according to the doctor, if you're going to have cancer, thyroid is the one to have because there's less than a 1% chance that it comes back. It's a one and done and it's out. But for 6 months, I struggled so much with hormone deficiency
Mm.
because they make you wait until you're completely depleted of your hormones in order to start medication. And then once you go on medication, you're constantly having to change the dosages because your body changes, and it was so difficult because I have so much energy. Usually, like the day after my surgery, I walked 5 miles. I tried to run, but I was stopped.
Mm.
um and I just having like the brain fog, the sleeplessness, but being exhausted, the losing my hair, my skin breaking out, but being
Mhm.
flaky, like my toenails fell off. I hope I didn't gross anybody out just there, but like all of those things and having just the brain fog and not being able to focus, like that just was so difficult for me. And it was a good 6 months and it hurt my business. It really did. It took me a while to really ramp back up. So that's a struggle. Um, and I think I had trouble giving myself a break, and
Mm.
saying, okay, this is not my fault. This is something that happened that I couldn't control. And
Mhm.
instead of beating myself up over not having my best year ever, I had to learn to just be kind to myself.
Mhm. Yeah. If someone was listening and going through something similar, what would you want them to know if they were in that place that you were?
Just be kind to yourself and remember that life happens and it just makes you stronger in the long run, and you're going to go through hurdles, but you're going to learn from them and things will
Mhm.
get better.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree, and I've done the same thing, I am one, I'll beat myself up, right? Like whether that's because I haven't been working out in the last couple weeks and, I need some accountability, or, whether I'm not showing up with as much energy, I think we all do that. Like we're all good at beating ourselves up. And I think you're right. Like we need to be more kind to ourselves, give ourselves grace sometimes. How do you stay at the top of your game while being kind to yourself and giving yourself that grace now?
I'm just working extra hard. I'm just trying to, do as much as I can to catch up. And I have a wonderful supportive team. And, I'm grateful that I had something that wasn't too serious. And I just had to go through a period of time that was difficult. And I don't really ever have to worry about it coming back. So I try to think of something that I'm grateful for every day. I meditate and pray every day, and I try to give thanks to God and just thanks for what I have and that I'm
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah. What is it like being kind of you're in the top tier of your group? So like I want to hear like what does that mean to you? Like what does it feel like? What does it mean to you?
It's funny. I've always had imposter syndrome. I don't feel like I'm in the top tier. Like I feel like I could always be doing better. For me, it's really nice, and it makes me feel really good. And I'm always like, wow, I am. But it makes me feel good that my clients have been loyal, and that I've built great relationships, and I think that's why.
Mm-hmm. So the relationship building has been key, you think, to your success in kind of staying ahead. Yeah. Is there anything that you do in particular that helps you build those relationships?
I just try to do the right thing by people and really listen.
Mm-hmm.
I think, listening is so underrated. A
Yeah,
lot of people want
totally.
to talk. Selling is not telling.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's listening and then helping people find what works for them, or helping people sell something that will get them to the place in their life that they want to go to. And I just think that listening is the most important thing, and really paying attention. I try to remember little things about people, things they say they like, and if I pass by something or I see something, I'll pick it up for them. And
Mm.
I just stay in touch, and I learn about their families, and you get close, you get very close to people when they have to when you have to show them like your entire financial picture. You get very close
Yeah.
very quickly.
It's
You have
vulnerable.
to trust people.
Yeah, there's a vulnerability there as well, right? That is, not everybody gets to go that deep with somebody into a vulnerable area, maybe for them. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. I want to know, I'm somebody that I love what I do, but I also have other, passions and things that I like to do. And I want to know, like, what was it like, or is it like for you to be balancing now? You like your career in real estate. You're in the top tier. You've done all these wonderful things. You've built such great relationships, but you're also branching out into this new adventure, and going to be soon launching a pet products e-commerce startup. And so, how do you balance this with your already kind of demanding career in real estate?
I wake up really, really early, and I work on that stuff early in the morning. I try to manage my time.
Managing your time.
I make a lot
Now,
of lists.
yeah, I am very much a list person too. I make tons of lists, and I actually have things like by the time. It's like even to the point I'll be like 10:15, take a shower, like
Love that.
I am very time oriented and to-do list oriented. So is that similar to you? Are you very just intentional about that time? And do you find that you work well or better or more energized in the mornings? And is that why you focus that time on that and then make room for other things later?
I am definitely a morning person. I but I run all day long, and just working with people energizes me. Doing something I love energizes me. I drink a lot of caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I just, I get up and I do things that for the startup in the morning. And then sometimes I have to do stuff late in the afternoon because a lot of the people that I'm talking to now are on the West Coast. So,
Mm-hmm.
I do meet out my time. I do put a lot in my calendar. Um, but I still have lists that are like a million things long that are not in my calendar, and I love the feeling of crossing something off. It just
Me
makes me feel
too.
amazing. Yeah.
I'm the same
So,
way. I love it. Okay, so what do you do for fun? How do you fill your
so
cup?
yeah, so I have two rescue dogs. I love animals. I love rescues. Luckily my building only allows one pet, but they let me have two. Seamus and Fiona. Obviously they're Irish. They're mutts from Arkansas, and
That's
thankfully
awesome.
they have not barked during this podcast. Um
Thanks,
they
puppies.
Yes. So I like to go to the park with them. I just love snuggling with them. I take Krav Maga.
Mm.
I love to stay fit and active. I love traveling is like my favorite thing in the world to do all over the place, and just spending time with friends
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
family. My family, yeah,
Are they close?
yeah, really
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm really similar. I'm very much that way too. Like people close to me fill me up. I love going like walks on outside, getting a good workout in for sure, meeting new people, like love doing the podcast for that reason. And I know that you have a podcast too.
Yeah.
And I actually like, are you keeping the same name?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys will have to check out her podcast. It's Kelly Minds Her Manners, but it's spelled Manors, which I thought was so smart of you because I was like, oh, I get it. Like, isn't that like a large real estate or something like manor?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, oh, that's really clever.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, what has been some of your favorite conversations on the podcast, and why do you enjoy that?
So I think I first of all, I love doing the podcast because I learn so much. I love learning people's stories,
Yeah,
and I
same.
ask a lot of questions that really force people to be authentic. And I think I don't have one favorite, but just the episodes where people just really talk about their failures and how they've grown
Mhm.
from them. And I mean, I had one guest who is an extremely successful entrepreneur, startup entrepreneur, household name brands. And he was talking about, he was so open with me. He said, "Nothing's off the table, Kelly." And he was talking to me about how he overcame bipolar disorder. And I thought that that was such a
Mm,
great message because he is so successful and he is such a kind, even keeled
mm,
person. And there are so many people that still feel that stigma of mental health, and
yeah.
they might not think that they can make it or that they have anywhere to go, especially with
Mhm,
something like bipolar where you're depressed and then you're up and you're down.
mhm,
And just listening to his story and seeing what he's done with that, I think was such a good message for people. So that was one of my favorite
mm.
episodes.
I love that, and yeah, I do. I think it's important, and I love, like, when, people can and notice where maybe they have a weakness or they have a trouble, and, we don't focus on it, but we let it grow, into something great that helps us in our own lives, right? And I think that that's really everybody's capable of doing that, but it helps to have the right person that has been through that before, right? And have a step process. Like, this is how what I would do. If you are talking to someone who maybe wants to get into real estate or maybe is like wanting to invest in real estate, is there anything you would tell them right now for
Yeah,
strategy?
if you want to get into real estate as an agent, my suggestion is to do your research and find the best team in the area you want to work in. And if they are not hiring, offer to work for them for free for 3 months. Always have at least 6 months of expenses in the bank because it can take some time to start closing properties. But if you work for the top brokers team, you are going to get so much of an education, and that is going to be your launching pad to a successful career. Don't try and go it on your own. And then I would say people who are investing, don't necessarily start in the most expensive place. Start small.
Mm-hmm.
Start in
Mm-hmm.
places that have a lot of tourism, and start small, and put I educate athletes on this. Put $50,000 down or $10,000 down on a small place, in a place where you can get a great return on investment, and just build from there, where you have passive income. And that would be my main advice.
Yeah. Are you doing any real estate investing as well, being a realtor?
Sorry,
Oh,
I missed that. My AirPods.
that's okay. As a real estate agent, are you also doing real estate investing
I
yourself?
would like to.
Yeah.
It is a plan of mine. It's been I had started looking right before the pandemic in upstate New York at some investment properties. Almost bought one. The owner would not let me do an inspection. That was scary. Couldn't
Mm,
find anything else I liked. And of course it's blown up since then, and all that stuff. But that's definitely something that I want to do, is invest in properties that are not my own. I think it would be fun to flip homes. I just need more time.
yeah, I totally get it. It's like we're multi-passionate, and then you're like, oh man, we ran out of time for that too. Well, we'll put it on our list. So looking ahead, is there any legacy that you'd like to leave in the real estate industry and or your entrepreneurial kind of ventures?
Yeah, I just think, being a good human, I say, there are so many people that I've told not to sell or not to buy right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the right time for you over the course of my career. Let me tell you, that's a hard thing to do, especially when you need the money.
Yeah.
But if you do the right thing by people, you get tons of referrals. They will trust you forever, and you can go to sleep at night. And I like to sleep at night. So I say, be good to people. You might not always be able to do the easy thing or the thing that puts money in your pocket, but let me tell you, it will come back.
Mm, I love that. That is so good. What are some big goals you have coming, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Yeah, so I'm working on my Miami license right now. I'm also going to be licensed in Dubai by the end of the year.
Oh, that's
Um,
exciting.
yeah, I've just renamed my team, so it's no longer the Kelly Robinson team. It's the One Global Advisory team. When I started my team back in 2011, it was the law that you had to have your name as part of your team name, and I never wanted that. This gives my
Oh,
team members more autonomy.
yeah.
And if I, croak or get out of the business, I can pass it down without people being like, "Where's Kelly Robinson?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
So,
totally get it.
yeah, so working on, really building that up and branding that, marketing that, and yeah, getting licensed in other places in the world and expanding my business worldwide.
Yeah. And I'm curious now, what does it look like to do real estate in Dubai compared to New York? I mean, they're like very, you know, well-known cities. They're more luxury cities. Tell me more. I want to know about this.
So Dubai, I probably won't be running around showing properties in Dubai. It's a little more of a resume builder, but I will
Okay.
be seeing properties in Dubai and getting familiar with the market there. I happen to have a lot of clients out there, and they want me to get licensed there. And I think that it's a great thing to do.
Mm.
Dubai is actually about 30% less expensive to live in than New York. There's no income tax. There's a 5%
Mm.
VAT tax and a 3% corporate tax, and that's it.
Wow.
There are caps on taxes on certain incomes, and there are there there are so many amazing things about Dubai, Abu Dhabi. There's so much industry going on there, and people are just so friendly, and it's very safe. And it's an amazing, intriguing place.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna put it on my list now because I have never been
Yes.
there. I'm like, oh, I'm very intrigued. Well, this has been so much fun. I have loved picking your brain on everything, and I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your secrets, your struggles, and your strategies with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute joy.
Yeah, where can people find you from here?
You can go to oneglobaladvisory.com or my Instagram, Kelly Robinson New York, all spelled out.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and I'm excited to keep chatting with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Of course. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. Until next time, keep exploring your own secrets and strategies. And remember, we're all in this together. Stay curious, stay connected. I'm Jillian Riddell, and this is Life Without Secrets. Hey there, it's Jillian from Life Without Secrets. Ever feel like you and your partner aren't quite on the same page? Well, you're not alone, and that's exactly why I created our latest issue of Truthful magazine. It's packed with insights and stories about bridging that gap and finding a deeper connection. We're diving into real conversations about needs, feelings, and how honest dialogue can rekindle that closeness that you've been missing. Why not explore this together? Go grab your free copy right now at lifewithoutsecrets.com and turn those pages into shared moments. Can't wait for you to dive in and share your thoughts with me.